Hi guys, it's Oscrix. Today I wanted to talk about my RF DINOMANCER. So this is a companion build using Infernal Legion, and Infernal Legion support applies an ignite equal to 20% of the companion's life to enemies around it. So the whole point of this build is stacking as much life and minion damage and minion AoE for clear speed as possible to increase the damage and radius of the ignite that the companion applies. So the companion I'm using is called the Crested Behemoth. It comes from the Trial of Chaos. The reason why I'm using it is because it's the highest HP companion you can currently tame. That's the most important part. It's also a cool dinosaur, which is sweet, but you have to farm it inside of the Trial of Chaos. It's the only place you can find them. And it's very important that you find one that has the increased area of effect modifier when you tame it as well. So taming one with increased area of effect modifier can take hours. The first one I did took me like 7 hours of farming the Trial of Chaos. So, sometimes it can take a while if you're not lucky. But it's very rewarding. The increased area of effect modifier gives 100% more AoE, so it makes the clear speed of the build feel way, 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 way better. And yeah, it's basically essential. You could play the build without it, but yeah, it's going to be a lot worse at clearing a map. The single target for the build, as you can see from the boss kills, it's pretty dang good, and the clear speed of the build feels really good. And this is all while having very comfortably more than 15, 16,000 energy shield. If you have like perfect gear, you're probably going to expect to have like 18,000 energy shield. And if you wanted to be crazy, you can very easily get more ES on the tree too, and get upwards to like 21, 22,000 energy shield while being chaos inoculation. So really insane levels of defense compared to the amount of damage. The clear speed playstyle, as you can see here, is very smooth. You just weapon swap to teleport the companion to you. Every time you weapon swap, it reappears on top of you. And since the Infernal Legion immediately starts acting and igniting stuff as soon as the minion appears, it allows you to really quickly swap back and forth. And then for mobility, you can have a blink set up in your weapon swap, so you can just constantly weapon swap, blink, and then swap back to make him appear, and then do that all over again to move over the map very, very quickly. So your mobility on this build is really, really high. It feels a lot like I'm playing POE1 when I'm playing this build, because as you can see, I'm basically just, flame dashing, or in this game, blinking around the map constantly while killing stuff with what essentially amounts to be righteous fire around my minion. So yeah, this build feels really, really smooth to play. You're super tanky. You move quickly through the map. You have a lot of single target DPS, so there's no problem like killing the rares or killing the map bosses and stuff like that. And in general, yeah, it's the most fun build I've played this league. I think that the gear is mostly expensive due to the fact that it has really high ES. You would prefer to have really high ES gear, that is, but you don't need it. You don't need to have a ton of ES gear, and the stuff that gives you damage generally in this build is not that expensive. One thing I'm missing for sure is a Prism of Belief. You could get one of those for companions for really cheap on softcore trade, but there's none on hardcore trade where I'm playing. That would be a huge increase in damage. But other than that, my character is pretty min-maxed, and I've been spending a good deal of time evaluating all the different options for the character. So I think it's in a pretty solid spot. So let's talk about the gear and the skills and all of that. Let's start out with the helmet. We've got a bunch of energy shield and minion levels, minion skill levels. You need as many of these as possible to scale the life of the companion. Each one of these increases its base health. So I've got 2 there, I've got 3 on the amulet, and a bunch of energy shield as well. I've got the Carrion Call. This is really nice because it gives minion life, minion damage, and it sets your minion's resistances equal to yours, so you don't need to get any minion resist on the tree. Super nice. It also gives you a nice chunk of ES for free, basically. This is very similar to Trench Timber and DPS, but you get more energy shield, obviously, and you get the ability to not have to spend passive points on minion resist, so it's kind of like more DPS than Trench Timber in the end. Then I've got boots, 35 move speed with a bunch of ES and resist. I've got gloves, same thing, a bunch of ES and resists. And then I have Chevron Satchel. This is a really fun belt that allows you to life pot to restore your ES. I have a life potion with instant recovery and increased charges, so it has 10 uses before it's completely out if it's full. And this makes it a really nice button to spam while you're mapping or against even a boss even. Put your life flask on a comfortable key to spam, and you can just spam this. If you're at full ES, you can't use it, so you can mash the key as much as you want, and it'll just use when it needs to be used. So yeah, nice button to be able to mash using that with Chevron's satchel. And then I've got a body armor with a bunch of ES, ton of ES, and 1 resist. And then in the rings, I've got 2 Sekima's Resolves. These are from the Trial of the Sekimas, and they're really nice. They have the line that says blank resistance is unaffected by area penalties. This basically reads as this ring gives 60 fire res. So the ring is a 60 fire res ring with 22 all attributes, 12 rarity, and a jewel socket for a ruby, which I have in 15% minion life and minion AoE in there. And then I have the emerald one as well. So this is 60% lightning res, 22 all attribute, 13 rarity, and 16% companion life, 19% companion damage, and I've got that one corrupted. I also have 10 lightning res on there, which I need for my build to get res capped right now. So these are really nice rings to wear on this character because it actually gives you damage. It's hard to find a place to scale the damage on your gear, so this is one of the few places you can do it by adding jewels to the build. And the rings really aren't half bad either. 60 of each resist is quite nice to get. And then for the weapon, I've got +4 minion skills. I've got allies and presence increased damage and minion max life. Those are the 3 most important stats. I could definitely have more allies and presence damage, but the rest of it's really nice on here. And then I also have a bunch of spirit. You don't need a lot of spirit to play this build, just enough to have like a storm mage and the companion and a skeletal cleric, but more spirit means more storm mages or clerics, so more spirit's definitely something nice to get. Like you get that on your amulet too. I just have this one because it was the only one I could find so far that has really good ES, and that I care more about the ES than the spirit. So that's the general gear. I've also got this mana potion, which I barely ever use, and I've got an Ascent Hope for when I become frozen to start ES recharge, really nice one. I've got an anti-stun charm, and I've got an anti-ignite charm, although this ignite charm could definitely use better mods. It's just some random one I put on earlier. Okay, so let's go over the skills. The skills are Voltaic Mark. This is a nice little debuff that allows you to have more effect of the shock from your storm mages. They're shock bots in this build, and you also get single out, which means that all physical damage against the target, 10% of that physical damage breaks armor, and Demolisher, so you break even more armor when that happens. And that means that the auto attacks from the companion, the Crested Behemoth, will start to break armor, and if you fully break armor on a target, I think they take 20% increased damage taken, so that's a big multiplier on your ignite damage. So that's a really nice bonus that it also adds. So I use this against bosses mostly. And then I've got Incinerate. This is another thing I only use against bosses. I've got Mobility on it, Arcane Tempo, Strip Away, and an Energy Barrier. And the whole point of this is to apply exposure. So you can apply up to 60% exposure with this at max stacks after you've channeled it up. So I only use this against bosses, basically. And then I've got Blink, and this brings me also to the weapons swap part of this build. So you don't use Blink on your main set, but you do use it on your weapon swap. And in your weapon swap, you have Crest of Ardura with 49% cooldown recovery rate. You can have up to 50 on this. And I've got a wand with cast speed and spell skills. And this makes for a really low cooldown, really fast Blink. I think it's a 1.7 second cooldown. So pretty fast. And because you have a bunch of cast speed, I've got cast speed on the wand. I've also got some cast speed in the tree over here, and I've got some cooldown recovery here, and I also have some cooldown recovery down here as well for Blink, and that makes it really fast, and that allows you to have less end lag time, which means that you could weapon swap faster, which is really important to making this build feel nice. So yeah, it allows this kind of process where you just move around by blinking and disappear the companion, weapon swap, reappear him, weapon swap, reappear him. And that's what allows you to kind of clear the map quite quickly and reposition them quickly. So it's super nice. Weapon swap. I have my weapon swap bound to right click on this build because that's basically the only button I press is weapon swap. Skeletal Storm Mage, these guys are the shock bots. They got Stormfire, so their shock never falls off an ignited enemy, which the enemy is always ignited, so that works great. 5% more chance to shock on conduction, more effect of shock from overcharge, coursing current, so shock spread while mapping, and lightning mastery, so it does a little more damage and life. It has a little more life and all that. Convalescence in the weapon swap. Right now this is bugged. If it's enabled in set 2, you can still use it in set 1, so that's what I'm doing with Second Wind, and you can use it twice. And then there's the Companion Crested Behemoth. You can see here on the monster mods I have increased area of effect. The rest of the mods are irrelevant here. But there's lots of good monster mods you could get in addition to increased area of effect. There's a ton. Some of the ones that I would love to get and we'll try and farm later. Haste Aura would be amazing for 10% movement speed for you and your minions. All damage chills would be really nice. That would mean that every single auto attack that the Crested Behemoth does a 10% minimum chill, which would be super nice defensively. Periodic Invulnerability Aura, Energy Shield Aura, those would all be really great defensively as well. So yeah, and then like stuff like Trail of Lightning for shock. There's a ton of really good mods, suffice it to say, but increased area of effect's the one you have to have. And then on it, I've got Enormity. This gives it 20% more damage and 20% more life, so perfect for this build. Infernal Legion, the support that this build's built around. 20% of the minions' life as fire damage per second as an ignite in a 1.5 meter radius, which you can scale with AoE through minion AoE and supports and such. And then Searing Flame for 75% more magnitude of that ignite. And then while mapping, I have in Magnified Effect for 30% more AoE. And I also have Reach, which gives 35% more AoE. Both these work with Infernal Legion. And then while I'm doing a boss, I'll swap in Muster for 21% more damage and Feeding Frenzy for 30% more damage. When I'm doing a boss, I swap these last 2 gems out. Then I've got Flammability with Hex Bloom for clearing, Heightened Curse, Focused Curse, Inspiration, make it a little cheaper. And then Pain Offering with Fonts of Blood for a little bit of regen, Ablation for more effect, Meat Shield so it takes less damage, and Persistence so it lasts longer. So this is a nice button to press. I only really press this against the boss. And then Skeletal Cleric is nice. It heals all the minions, and it increases your minion count for muster. I have an Elemental Army, Last Gasp, and Sacrificial Lamb on them, and yeah, I sacrifice them to Pain Offering. If you were using a Rattling Scepter, then you could do things a little bit differently, but right now I'm using a Shrine Scepter, so that's what I've got. And Rattling Scepter probably would be better if you can fix your resists another way. So yeah, that would be more optimal. Okay, let's go over the passive tree real quick. So on the passive tree, all I do is take a bunch of ES and minion damage and minion AoE pretty much. You're a Titan, so every single small passive has 50% increased effect, which is great. You don't even need these other nodes. This is the only node on the tree that matters. So you just want to take a lot of small passive nodes, minion damage, minion life, ES, all that stuff. And in the jewel sockets, I've got emerald jewels with companion life and companion damage. In a perfect world, you would have movement speed on these two. I have one movement speed jewel that I haven't divined to be very good. But yeah, in a perfect world, you'd have companion life, companion damage, and movement speed, because that'd be sweet. And if you were playing in softcore, you could dump the body armor for a tabula rasa and just wear 6 jewels with companion life, companion damage, and movement speed, and this build would probably do insane DPS and you would run around fast as fuck. So it might be something worth doing if you're interested on the software trade. Anyways, I've also got a From Nothing. This allows you to allocate passes within Glancing Blows down here, which includes 2 18% companion damage nodes, 2 18% minion or companion life nodes, and these also give you 15% increased defenses while your companion's next to you. So that's 15% increased energy shield too. So these are really good nodes. And then 20% companion life, also another great node. And then on my weapon swap, there's also some cool nodes you can take down here for weapon swap. One of them is cooldown recovery rate. And then these are all block chance, but this node is really cool. It gives you 12% block chance and 1% movement speed for each time you've blocked in the past 10 seconds. So when your weapon swaps to having Crest of Ardura out and you have like 30-something block chance, every time you block, you're going to get a 1% movement speed for 10 seconds, which is a super long duration. and that's just going to be a little bit of you know, help clearing a map. A little bit of a movement speed boost that you probably won't notice, but will definitely, you know, be good. And yeah, that's basically the entire tree. I get CI and all that. I also have this node right now in my weapon swap because I needed fire resist. So that's in my weapon swap because I needed fire resist. But yeah, that's basically the entire character, guys. Sorry if it was a bit of a rant. There was a lot to cover here. But yeah, this is one of the most fun builds I've played this league, and I'm going to be playing a lot more of it. If you have any questions about this character and everything, come over to my Twitch stream at twitch.tv/Oscrix. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys watching, and if you're going to try this build out, I hope you have a lot of fun. All right, later, guys.